I'm with Dina Padilla, who has been a shop steward at SEIU 250 at Kaiser Hospital. She was on the executive board of the union, and she was injured on the job as well as many other workers at Kaiser. And today at the hearing, what are you going to be calling for?
I'm going to be calling for Christine Baker to be taken off the board, and that she should be arrested for crimes for fraud, and that Attorney General Becerra should prosecute her for fraud.
I don't think I'll use the entire 5 minutes, but this is my 10th year on the commission. I'm very proud of what I've been able to accomplish, but more importantly what the commission and the prosecutors and the Department of Insurance has been able to do over the past 10 years. The balanced caseload continues to be our focus, and that is there is no one fraud in the workers' comp system that is more important than the other. And as a result, although employers often are some of the biggest voice, it is just as important that we protect the injured workers, probably more so, that we protect the injured workers if they're being defrauded in the system. And that includes poor treatment by medical providers that are more interested in increasing an income as opposed to patient care, the uninsured, and definitely the underground economy. I'm very happy that the governor's appointed Commissioner Lopez to this commission. His background, his experience will be extremely helpful in not only communicating but also measuring the success of the various prosecutors and the prosecuting programs throughout the state.
My name is Steve Zeltzer. I'm with United Public Workers for Action, and I think this is an important position for chair of this commission. But we have some very serious concerns, and I'd like you to address those. And that is, this commission is responsible for investigating fraud in the workers' comp industry in California. And we believe that fraud against workers is going on all the time by the insurance industry, and it hasn't been investigated. So many workers have been targeted, harassed, bullied. Workers have been prevented from getting their injuries taken care of in a timely fashion, leading to permanent disability. And we think it's one-sided. This has to change because injured workers are human beings. They have the right for medical care, and they deserve to be treated as workers who need help. And I think most workers do not want to be injured. They want to be able to do their job and get an income. So the question I have for you is, there's a highly controversial member of this commission who has been appointed by previous Governor Brown to this commission, Christine Baker, who was investigated by the State Personnel Board, and there was a state audit done on her about the malfeasance and fraud in the Department of Industrial Relations. And I know that you weren't the person that appointed her, Governor Brown, but the question is I don't see how a commission can have somebody on the commission who has had these charges against her or him, and for that to be a legitimate issue. I mean, it really raised the question about the nature of the commission. So the question I have for you is, what view do you have about a commissioner being on this board who has been under these kind of charges? There was just a settlement of an investigator of the Division of Industrial Relations who was retaliated against by this commissioner and received a settlement of $250,000 by the state of California for illegal bullying, harassment. Where do you stand on this issue?
These are murderous crimes, these are injurious crimes, these are crimes against humanity.
Morning, everybody. Len Welsh. I just would like to correct the record a little bit here. Christine Baker is the only director DIR has ever had who has been successful at reforming workers' comp. She was responsible for taking over $3 billion a year of frictional cost out of the system, frictional costs and inefficiency. A lot of that redounded to the benefit of the workers. Permanent disability benefits increased because of the reforms that Christine Baker spearheaded. There's nobody who has fought harder to eliminate fraud from the system and take as much as can be gained from that elimination and give it back to workers so that their lot can be improved. One other thing about the so-called situation at DIR. I challenge any reporter to actually do a real investigation about what happened. If you do a real investigation instead of reading what you've been spoon-fed by somebody else, you'll find that her daughter was legally hired and the auditor didn't provide any way for anybody to challenge what the finding was, figure out what the finding was based on, or have any public dialogue about whether the auditor was even in the ballpark, and she wasn't. And there's something terribly wrong with that process. But I can tell you that everything that was alleged about Christine Baker at DIR is false. She's been the best director they've ever had. Workers have come to her at DIR with any kind of problem, no matter what their rank was in the agency, and they were taken care of. There was no fraud there at all.
Do they have the right to respond to the questions?
Yeah, let me go ahead and respond. There was an open question. I will tell you that the makeup of the commission is through the executive department of the state of California. I would suggest you contact the governor's office regarding the makeup of the commission. We work here at the will of the governor.
Steve Zeltzer, United Public Workers for Action. And I think that, again, I would like to ask the commissioners who are running for the office, where do they stand on a commissioner who has a conflict of interest and has a record of bullying, harassing, and firing people who are fighting fraud, because that's really what happened. Bill Zachary, I don't know if people know him, was a former head of this commission, and he was working, he was an executive for Safeway, and we find that Safeway workers were coming here to this commission to talk about the fact that they were not getting their health care benefits, they were not getting taken care of as injured workers. So it seems to me somebody who actually works for a company that is determining the insurance treatment of workers should not be on this commission. It's a conflict of interest. And where do you stand on that issue? You think that there should be commissioners who are representing the insurance industry while they're members of this commission? We feel that that's a basic conflict. And also we have a concern about the commissioner, the insurance commissioner Lara, taking money himself from insurance companies. It seems like it's systemic, the conflicts of interest and these issues and the result has been that injured workers are not getting the health care they need. And Len Welsh, who spoke earlier, proclaimed that his partner, his business partner, and they're now both representing insurance companies, did the right thing. Well, there are thousands of workers who have complaints about the treatment that they have. There are thousands of workers some who have committed suicide because they weren't getting treatment. Many workers are getting drugs, opiates, instead of getting treatment. That's why they get addicted to drugs. This happened all under the reign of this commissioner. So I think you have to take a stand. Where do you stand on this commissioner? And as to the new governor, Governor Newsom, he has allowed this commissioner to take her seat. I think that's a serious problem. And I agree, you don't have the power to appoint commissioners. He has the power. But it raised a question about the governor and his ability to appoint people who are going to be neutral, who are going to be representing the people of California.
My name is Dina Padilla, and I just want to say that with Christine Baker, again, we were at hearings where we tried to talk to her. We tried to talk to her about what we were going through. And it just goes in literally one ear and out the other, if it even made it that far. And I remember I asked you, we were in Washington, D.C., and you wouldn't even talk to us. And it was about fraud and about the fact that injured workers weren't getting medical care. They have got nothing. I've been without it since 1988. You know who I talked to? I talked to injured workers. I try to talk them out of committing suicide. I don't know what Mr. Wells, who he thinks, he says that you've helped, because you haven't helped anybody I know. So you have no business because it's a fraud. And you know what I learned about fraud? Fraud is a lie. Fraud is an omission. You don't necessarily have to steal anything. But if you lie or you omit, and you can omit medical records, you can omit with insurance adjusters, anybody I know. So you have no business because it's a fraud. And you know what I learned about fraud? Fraud is a lie. Fraud is an omission. You don't necessarily have to steal anything. But if you lie or you omit, and you can omit medical records, you can omit with insurance adjusters, lie, or don't tell the truth. So I'm just saying that we need people here that are for the people of the state of California, starting with the millions of injured workers. And Christine Baker, you have no business being here. You should be in jail. And Becerra should put you in jail, put charges on you for what you've done. if you don't think that you've done anything with that investigator or with your daughter working, it's for all the denials and the treatment of injured workers throughout the years that you've worked for the state of California.